Alright guys, I haven't seen this yet, but this is going to be a rare case where I'm genuinely rooting for and hoping for HASAN to look good. You guys know how rare that is. After, like, all of the defense of Russia and their invasion of Ukraine and the, like, moving the goalposts to avoid getting canceled because he's a clout demon, the non-stop insufferable like, champagne socialist personality that he enforces. He loves flexing wealth while criticizing rich people for flexing their wealth. Everything that he says and does feels really hollow, and on top of that, he's got a lot of really deranged moments I've covered countless times in this channel. My favorite being the saga of the Ukraine invasion, and of course, more recently, he's made a real fool of himself by just making things up on the fly for convenience when it comes to Israel-Palestine, even though I agree with him fundamentally about the idea that Palestinians should be, like, not having to live under a oppressive death glare of Israel nonstop, having their land taken through settlements and all that stuff. Like, we agree fundamentally on that, and yet HASAN has a tendency to engage in this really bizarre, like, what's a good way to describe it? It almost feels like a social media-fication of activism around the movement. And I don't even consider, like, making YouTube videos necessarily activism, but he calls it that. And it's really... everything about what he does, just outside of the left, gives the left a really bad name. I've noticed this trend. When I criticize HASAN, the left gets really mad at me. I lose subs, I get dislikes, I get hate comments, my own fans get mad at me, because even among the left, even among people who don't necessarily like HASAN, they don't dislike HASAN enough to agree with any criticism of him being, like, leveraged. And so... outside of the left, though, people do not like HASAN. If you've ever talked to anybody who is not, like, a lefty who knows who HASAN is, or, like, anyone who's, like, a normie, like, just outside of the online lefty sphere, and knows what HASAN is, or who HASAN is, it's not a good opinion they have. They do not have a good opinion of HASAN at all. Normies fucking hate him. He used to be a very, like, good figure for attracting normies to the left, but over the last few years in particular, he has really ruined his reputation in that ballpark. And so, I've criticized him a lot, but at the same time, the left is in a bad place right now, to be fair, partially because of people like HASAN and HASAN himself, but I do not need to see another large left-wing figure go on TV and make a joke of themselves. And so I'm worried, because Hasanabi went on Piers Morgan Uncensored, what was this, 2 days ago, to debate with a pro-Israel journalist. Now, whether or not HASAN makes good arguments here, and whether or not he's able to keep himself from, like, ruining his own optics, that's going to determine whether or not this is a video of me praising HASAN or shitting on HASAN. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, despite my clearly stated biases, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. Regardless of my bias, which I've clearly stated and I'm not going to pretend doesn't exist, I am hoping for HASAN to look good here. Because HASAN looking good here, at the very least, at the very worst, means that the left does not look bad as a result of HASAN's behavior and actions, because whether you like it or not, he is representing a lot of the left's pro-Palestine movement group right now when he goes on this program. And this is a big program, too. A lot of people watch Piers Morgan.
Well, the war in Gaza has incensed communities across the world. Many Jewish people say they don't feel safe on the streets of Western cities. Many Muslims feel the horror facing innocent Palestinians is treated only as a second-class concern. As with any emotive cause, a lot of people with no dog in the fight have moulded this crisis into a familiar battle of good versus evil, oppressors versus oppressed. Hysterical scenes at some of America's top universities this week have generated more coverage and commentary.
Man, Piers Morgan is like a legendary centrist. He's a conservative, obviously, but he's a legendary centrist. All centrists are conservative, effectively. Yes, the only morality in this entire foreign policy situation is that which is being injected into it by, Western privileged people outside of the situation.
than the war itself in the last 2 weeks. Colombia says that all in-person classes are now cancelled until the end of the semester. Arrests have been made at encampments outside NYU and Yale. Well, one notable Jewish professor at Columbia shared a video of Muslims praying as if it was a shocking assault on US values. Many badly informed pro-Palestine demonstrators,
so he's like the perfect centrist. He's like, right, so people are giving morality to this situation, calling it an evil genocide, but also you've got, you know, he plays the centrist pretty well, pointing out that, like, there's also the conservatives that are freaking out and calling, like, Muslims praying on campus peacefully an attack on American values. So Piers Morgan sucks pretty bad, but he's not, he's British for one, so that, like, the culture war line that he toes for, like, conservatism is probably different than that of America. There's probably a very different culture war that conservatives in Britain are fighting. And there's also just the fact that, like, in general, even among conservative British people, Trump is just not popular there. Like, his way of handling things, how uncouth he is, how lacking in civility he is, it's just not popular in the UK with their, like, really hyper LARPy political system that's trying to, like, keep up the old ages vibe, you know?
Called for an intifada and chanted, "We love Hamas." Others believe that synchronized dancing is a long-lost secret to peace in the Middle East. Well, these people are all spending $80,000 a year on tuition, but clearly many of them haven't found Wikipedia, and this virtue-signaling fever is now emboldening a growing number of people to confront public figures who have simply no connection to the war. This was New York Mayor Eric Adams berated as...
It's so unfortunate that, like, some of this smarmy backhandedness has a little bit of truth to it, right? Like, as much as I hate to say it, there has been a little bit of an explosion lately in fraudulent Palestine orgs, if that makes sense. I had a video I saved specifically to make this point because I have a hard time keeping all the details, like, off the dome, you know, ready for you guys. But I think this video does a good job of highlighting, like, the type of problem that I'm talking about. You might have seen this channel before. This guy's pretty chill. Check this out.
We're going to be good friends.
Sarah Wilkinson is a graphic designer and Palestinian supporter.
That is such a coincidence. I'm a Palestinian supporter too.
But Hamas has gots to go.
She encouraged people to board a U.S. Navy ship called the Harvey Milk, but she did it by saying it was an Israeli ship in San Francisco.
Sarah implies that this Israeli ship was in San Francisco to take on weapons.
The USNS Harvey Milk is a Navy replenishment oiler. It basically refuels other ships at sea. So what Sarah did
was she lied to young people and encouraged them to attack this boat and throw their lives away for nothing.
The organization that helped coordinate this attack, the Arab Resource and Organizing Center, has quite a few shady associations.
That organization is not beyond using people with low critical thinking skills to advance their agenda. They don't care about you.
Sarah, when you block somebody for telling the truth,
that says more about you than it ever will about me. And anyway, I have access to the Twitter API, so see you soon.
That's funny. Anyway, yeah, basically there are a fair amount of people out there that are taking advantage of the popularity and the enthusiasm at which young people are advocating for Palestine and using it for some pretty insidious purposes. And while Hassan's doing nothing quite as bad as what, like, that lady and that organization are doing, you know, encouraging people to raid, like, a foreign aid ship and risk felonies, like taking guns and violently attacking people at a ship, like, docked in America. Like, that's nowhere near as, like, that's way worse than what Hassan's doing. But, like, there are a lot of very malicious actors out there taking advantage of the fervent support that these people have for Palestine and using that low critical thinking to get them to say and do some pretty bad stuff. And it's pretty scary because right now we're looking at a time where there's somewhat popular support for a heavy crackdown on the rights to protest in favor of Palestine, particularly after the amount of road blocking protests that Palestinian liberation protesters have done in America, the blocking of public roads. We've been seeing, like, with very little pushback, conservative politicians saying, take it into your own hands. They're breaking the law. Do what you must if they're blocking the road. There's no consequences for them saying that. And the people are like, all right, we will. Like, the road blocking protests are not popular. Don't engage in that. I'm sorry. Free speech who? No one is actually, like, fundamentally in favor of free speech. Free speech is a tool that people... No one is a free speech absolutist. No one is. Everybody believes in some form of censorship.
Supporting genocide, he took his seat on a flight.
Hey, Eric Adams? Yeah, you! You support the genocide in Palestine. There are homeless people all over New York. You're always partying. You don't actually care about the citizens of New York. People cannot afford food. You keep cutting the education budget so you can fund the police.
Ma'am, you're gonna get kicked off the plane and they're not gonna refund you the money for your ticket that you paid for.
And this so-called performance artist has dominated timelines for days after achieving what previously seemed impossible, and outpouring public sympathy for Alec Baldwin by doing this.
Put innocent people in jail, Alec Baldwin.
This video,
Free
yeah.
Palestine, Alec, just one time, and I'll leave you alone.
This video is long and cringy. This video goes on for like 2 minutes before he starts walking away, of him like just trying to get a coffee, and she goes between like, why'd you kill that woman and why don't you support Palestine over and over again, just yelling it back and forth. It's like, one, like that was pretty obviously a problem of the props department. He was filming a movie scene. The gun was supposed to be empty and a prop gun with blanks in it. They filmed the scene. Like, the arms team, like the armor team fucked up. And there was a live round in one of the real guns that was supposed to have blanks in it for the scene. Because they fire real guns with blanks in them for tons of movies to have the real gun effect. Otherwise, you can really tell when it's a fake muzzle flash if you've seen muzzle flash in real life. And so, yeah, it's just, like, it's really bizarre going back and forth between, like, you're a murderer, and also, why don't you support Palestine? Like, I'm calling you a murderer. Also, why don't you just agree with me right now? Like, these videos have been going highly viral lately. Ugh.
I'll leave you alone, I swear. Just say Free Palestine one time. One time. One time. One time, Alec. You know he's a criminal. You know he's a criminal. Come on, Alec. Just say Free Palestine one time. Israel, Zionism. Please say it. One time.
So does any of this make a difference? Are these demonstrators forcing the rich and powerful to confront and condemn the horrors of war? Or is it a wave of self-indulgent protest, just distracting us from the deadly serious realities of a grim ongoing war? In a moment, I'll debate all that with Hasan Piker, Emily Austin, Esther Cracker, and James Barber. First, I'm joined by Alec Baldwin's antagonist there, who calls herself Crackhead Barney. Well, welcome to Uncensored.
Hey, Piers! I've been waiting for you, Piers fucking Morgan!
Okay.
I wore my diaper today for you, Piers. Do you like it?
Not particularly, no. Do you want to sit down?
What is Piers Morgan's show these days? Has Piers Morgan's show just gone a little crazy? Has it gone a little off the deep end these days? Hasan chooses some interesting platforms to go on. Yeah, this is serious journalism, guys. Is this person doing... That's whiteface, guys. That's it. I've seen everything. I think I've seen everything now. What is happening here? Crackhead Barney takes on Piers. I love that. I love this, actually. This is a perfect person. This person is just as serious as Hasan. And I feel like having this person on right before Hasan Piker does a phenomenal job of just setting the scene and getting people prepped for the level of serious discussion that we're going to be contending with. I'm so confused by what the fuck that is. I don't... Guys, I don't know. What is Piers Morgan? Is it like... Has it become like... Yeah, has it become the Jerry Springer show? Is it like new Opie and Anthony or some shit? Like, I don't know. Like, is it shock jock shit now? Like, fully?
Podcast of James Barber. Well, Emily, I mean, on one level, I guess it was quite funny, but on another level, I didn't like what she did to Alec Baldwin. I've got no truck for Alec Baldwin whatsoever. And I think with this case that he's got hanging over him, I hope that justice is served, because ultimately he did fire the gun that killed that poor woman and has been on some kind of weird PR tour ever since. But I don't like to see any public figure, whether it's Eric Adams, the mayor, on a plane.
I haven't watched much Piers Morgan outside of these interview type things. I don't know what he gets up to when he's not interviewing people all serious like this and professional.
Or Alec Baldwin getting a coffee, harangued and harassed in that manner. Now, I tried to conduct a serious interview. She obviously wasn't interested in doing that, wanted to turn the whole thing into a foul-mouthed rant and joke and performative thing. Fine. That's entirely her right to do it. But what did you think of these harassings, not just by her, but by other people, of public figures?
You tried to conduct a serious interview with crackhead Barbie?
Well, no.
Okay, all right. No, we're actually off to a good start if Hasan's going to be just like, what the fuck was that? Like, Hasan's like, okay, no, this is a good start. I actually respect Hasan here. Right off the bat, he's just like, what the fuck was that? What did we just watch?
Her about a viral video of her harassing Ali Baldwin, which I do actually think is a serious thing. I do actually think public figures should not be harassed.
Was that the person who... Okay, so I think... Okay. So this person was the one who was harassing the person on the plane who went on there, I guess, to troll? So this person's literally like a pro-Palestine supporter who went on there to troll Piers Morgan, but this is the troll, I think. I hope that's a plant. I hope that's a plant. Oh.
I think with this case that he's got hanging over.
I can't believe that Hasan is my fucking comfort character in this saga here, okay? Like who is the one person I can root myself to here to not go fucking insane? And it's goddamn Hasan. This is hell. If I go to hell, this is what it'll be. The only person who I can get along with or relate to or agree with in any way is fucking Hasan. This is the worst case scenario.
Over him. I hope that justice is served, because ultimately he did fire the gun that killed that poor woman and has been on some kind of weird PR tour ever since. But I don't like to see any public figure, whether it's Eric...
Wait, is Piers Morgan retarded about the Alec Baldwin thing too? Hold on. Okay, chat. Correct me if I'm wrong. When Alec Baldwin shot that woman, that was filming a scene, right? Or like, because the gun was supposed to be empty. The armorers had emptied the gun. The gun was supposed to be empty. My understanding is that at most he had negligence of like aiming what he thought was a blank-filled empty gun at somebody and pulling the trigger, or he was filming a scene and pulled the trigger. I forget exactly the details, but the gun, what I remember specifically, is the gun was supposed to be empty. There is an entire team on site that is meant to make sure of this, because actors don't know shit about guns, and they aren't expected to get gun safety training before filming a scene or working with guns on set. It sucks, but that's typically how it's expected to go, so they have professionals make sure that if an actor gets a gun in their hands, no matter how stupid they are with it, they aren't going to get anyone killed. And the person who was supposed to do that for Alec Baldwin's gun that went off didn't do their job right. I as a gun guy, yes, it was Alec Baldwin's fault. The gun should have never gone off and shouldn't have been pointed at somebody when it did. But as someone who's like also a gun guy and looking at it practically, in the movie industry, they don't expect actors to know guns. They have professionals make sure that the actors are going to be safe, not knowing guns. Those professionals fucked up. The people who know the guns fucked up in that scenario, not the actor or actors.
Adams, the mayor, on a plane, or Alec Baldwin getting a coffee, harangued and harassed in that manner. Now, I tried to conduct a serious interview. She obviously wasn't interested in doing that, wanted to turn the whole thing into a foul-mouthed rant and joke and performative thing. Fine. That's entirely her right to do it.
It was a rehearsal. It shouldn't have had blanks either. Holy shit, that arms department fucked up bad.
But what did you think of these harassings, not just by her, but by other people, of public figures?
You tried to conduct a serious interview with crackhead Barbie?
Well, no, I was asking her about a viral
delay.
video of her harassing Alec Baldwin, which I do actually think is a serious thing. I do actually think public figures should not be harassed in that manner. I've had a bit of it myself, and I think it crosses a line.
Oh, she was the one harassing Alec Baldwin, I see.
Right, and Ali Baldwin, as far as I'm aware, has not said anything particularly sensational about the war at all. So why she is harassing him in the street in the way that she did, I think is worthy of examination. Wow. Now, as it turned out,
Well, the fact is, I mean, the types of people who are going out there and doing this are clearly a bit mentally ill. I think that's a little obvious. Like, a little bit of mental illness might be present. Potentially. Yeah, I think so.
Harangued and harassed in that manner. Now, I tried to conduct a serious interview. She obviously wasn't interested in doing that, wanted to turn the whole thing into a foul-mouthed rant and joke and performative thing. Fine. That's entirely her right to do it. But what did you think of these harassings, not just by her, but by other people, of public figures?
You tried to conduct a serious interview.
Sorry,
Ali Baldwin, as far as I'm aware, has not said anything particularly sensational about the war at all. So why she is harassing him in the street in the way that she did, I think is worthy of examination. Now, as it turned out, she had no interest in having a serious conversation. Okay, so we've cut it off. But I don't think I should be blamed for getting on someone who is literally at the centre of a quite big news story in America for harassing a famous star. Do you, Hasan?
No, it was for clout. She was doing it for clout. That's why she went on the show.
Hasan knows that answer best. I believe him. He knows a clout chaser. It takes a clout chaser to know a clout chaser that well.
So for clout, which you were correct on pointing out that using the ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza and what's happening to the Palestinian people as a vehicle to...
It's not an ethnic cleansing. Guys, I don't like when lefties call it an ethnic cleansing, because if you're going to call what Israel is doing an ethnic cleansing, then you have to call Hamas. You cannot claim Hamas doesn't want to ethnically cleanse all the Jews, because like the Hamas flag, many of the groups outside of Gaza and like Palestine that support Hamas and back them literally have death to all Jews written on their flags and stuff. It's part of their slogans, Hamas's slogans. So if you like, Hamas wants to kill all the Jews. They want ethnic cleansing. It's part of their slogans, their ideology, their propaganda, their imagery, their aesthetic, Like, if you want to say Israel is doing an ethnic cleansing, then you also have to agree that the hostilities from Hamas are attempts at an ethnic cleansing. So it's literally an ethnic cleansing versus ethnic cleansing at that point. These words are what are called thought-terminating cliches. You guys understand that, right? There is a time where this phrase can be used, and it's just straight up an accurate way to describe what's happening. I don't believe that ethnic cleansing is a definitionally accurate way to describe what's happening. This is not a defense, by the way. People love to see that as a defense when I say this. And I don't like the attempts to try to use a nasty word that everybody agrees is bad to describe what's happening there and leave the argument at that. That's what it feels like. Everyone just wants to say it's a genocide, and if you don't agree that it's a genocide, then you support genocide, and you're a genocide supporter, and that's the end of the conversation. That's kind of like how people want it to be. But it's more complicated than that. I know that, like, that's the meme, but it is. It's like the most complicated foreign policy issue ever. It literally, in the modern world, it is the most complicated foreign policy issue. I don't really know why people like Hasan and so many on the left try to oversimplify it for the sake of like quippy, snappy slogans and stuff, but it's a very complicated problem. I agree with Vosh, there is no two sides saying a genocide. Oh my fucking god. So do you think Hamas is not in favor of ethnic cleansing and they don't want to kill all the Jews? Because they state they do. So, like, why is it okay that Hamas wants to ethnic cleanse the Jews, but you can't say it's ethnic cleansing? It's only ethnic cleansing what Israel wants to do. Both are bad, guys. Both are bad. Hey, guys, hot take as well. I'm gonna guess that if the people of Palestine could have it their way, they probably wouldn't have Hamas in power anymore. Hamas kind of took power barely with the support of the people of Palestine like decades ago at this point. The support for Hamas that might have been close to a majority back in what was it? It would have been the 90s? When did Hamas take power of the Gaza Strip? I forget exactly when. But like my point is, the people of Palestine and Hamas are not the same group. Hamas are victimizing the people of Palestine. The solution to this cannot be just saying Israel is evil and we stop supporting them, because that will never happen. I'm sorry. I want that to be possible. I want there to be a reality where the U.S. can feasibly just stop supporting Israel. The fact is, there are countless reasons why this both will never and can never happen. Not with our current, not sociological, what's the term for it? Like, not with our current position in the Middle East. We need Israel for a variety of reasons, like the country does. Israel has a massive amount of money in our government, enough to literally hang an anvil over the head of every single politician in our government with AIPAC. One of, if not these days, might be the most well-funded government, funded PAC out there, or like foreign-funded PAC out there, or just the biggest PAC there is in Washington. There's not going to be a day where it's like, yippee, we're not funding Israel anymore. But what can happen is pressure can be put on Israel and the U.S., Israel's ally, in order to make them afraid of engaging in such, what's a good word for it? Indiscriminate attacks. The big problem with the IDF and the way that they do things, like, they're not just going out typically. There have been cases of this, mind you. I think there's been, I think recently there was a video where, like, an IDF soldier just, shot some kids or something. Just shot some kids. Not military-age males or anything. Just shot some kids on site, if I remember correctly. Might have been, the mom and the kids, or, a daycare employee and the kids. I forget. But that one was a horrifying one. You also have to remember that there are a fair few psychos in the IDF. Just like in the U.S. military, you've got a fair few, psychotic right-wingers, far-right white nationalist types. You've got your fair few, Israeli nationalist psychos in the IDF as well. But then you've got your fair amount of just normal people, because it's compulsory and, enlistment. So a lot of this stuff is going to be weighted, especially if you're basing what's happening in Israel and Palestine off of videos and, stories, individual stories and anecdotes. A lot of these stories are going to be weighted by the fact that, every single psychopathic Israeli nationalist right now is not just able to, but is compulsed, required to go sign up for the military of Israel and go out there and shoot some Hamas, right? And who knows how things go. Maybe they mess up and shoot a few innocent Palestinian children. But, the biggest, most common issue has been the fact that Hamas likes to use Palestinian civilians as human shields. And on the other end of things, the IDF typically doesn't seem to worry about civilians being used as human shields, and it's just bet. That tends to be how the IDF goes about things. Maybe I'm wrong, but fuck, I mean, based on how I'm seeing things go down, that seems to be how it's going. It's not a genocide. It is a colonialist land takeover being pushed back on by another, extremely far-right nationalistic group engaging in terror tactics, which is what Hamas is doing. October 7th happened. And I know I've seen a lot of lefties, even Vosh, denying, some of the horrible shit that happened to the Israelis, that it literally is a genocide, Zan. It meets the UN definition of a genocide. Let's see. UN definition of genocide. Why do you guys have to interpret literally anything I say? That's guys, everything doesn't have to be entirely black and white as me defending bad thing. You guys just want so badly to have something to disagree with me about. Why are your lives so lacking in conflict that you have to find excuses? Chat, you're being stupid. They're always stupid, Ride the Rails. They're always this stupid. It's every time. It's in every chat, not just mine. The Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, the Genocide Convention, is codified the first time the crime of genocide. Its preamble recognizes that at all periods of history, genocide has inflicted great losses on humanity, that international cooperation is required to liberate humankind from such odious scourge. According to the Convention, genocide is a crime that can take place both in time of war as well as in time of peace. The definition contained in Article 2 of the Convention describes genocide as a crime committed with the intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group in whole or in part. Yeah, you can't say Israel is trying to do this. Like the national line on what they are doing against Hamas is not they are not saying they want to commit a national, ethnic, racial, or religious like genocide, like wiping out, cleansing. There's nothing that there are Israeli nationalists and racists in the government. But regardless, Vash has been a little cringe on it. He doesn't want to critique protesters when they make us look bad. Yeah, I've seen that, and it's super cringe. Like, I saw him yesterday, I think, or maybe the day before that. He said something along the lines of, like, a bunch of the horrible stuff that they said Hamas did to the people that were killed on October 7th has been proven wrong. One of them being, like, the rapes of underage girls. Guys, it's been fully confirmed that, like, a bunch of the underage girls at that event were raped after they were raped, either before or after they were killed. There is footage that leaked way before the IDF was posting it of what happened to many of the people killed there. Zero doubt rape happened. A lot of rape happened. Many of the, like, women were chopped up. I've seen the video. I don't blame Vosh if he doesn't want to see the video, but, like, he did not say that. No, I saw it the other day. He definitely said it. It was a clip on Twitter, so maybe it was out of context, but regardless, I think a lot of people on the left, even Vosh, are just, like, right now really maybe shooting themselves in the foot with the Israel-Palestine stuff. You guys can disagree with me as much as you like. Say, no, it's a genocide, it's a genocide. The UN agrees. But all that's happening right now is support for the Palestinian movement is getting a little shaky, and it's going to continue to do so as people who are representing this movement continue to actually engage in, like, criminal behavior, like threatening, like outright threatening the lives of like sitting politicians to their faces. It's just, guys, you gotta. This reminds me of when the woke scold thing first started being a thing, and whenever I talk about it, everyone would be like, "Zan, this is just your gamer far right brain coming back again. You're just still a chud deep down. You're just still a chud deep down. These woke scolds aren't a real problem. Can't we focus on the real problems?" And then somewhere around the time when they bullied Lindsay Ellis off the internet and made her like medically medically falling apart due to depression from the attacks, people like stopped saying that in my audience about the woke scolds. This is a real problem, and the left has a serious problem with self-policing, because if anybody's on the left and anybody agrees with what we say, then they must be worthy of defending, even if they're this person. Guys, please, just bite the bullet and say, yeah, these types are cringe. They don't represent us. Here's what I actually believe.
Why she is harassing him in the street in the way that she did, I think is worthy of examination. Wow. Now, as it turned out, she had no interest in having a serious conversation. Okay, so we've cut it off. But I don't think I should be blamed for getting on some...
Xander Hall, the only thing that the international court has found Israel problem of taking land... Israel... at a problem of is taking land that wasn't theirs to make settlements. Yeah, the settlement stuff is the most indefensible shit that Israel does. Like, I know you guys may disagree with this because lives are lost in the other end of it, but on a like a world law scale, like internationally, the shit Israel is doing, building their settlements and continuously chopping away at land from the Palestinians, that's the shit that even like relatively pro-Israel what settlements? The settlement building. It's Israel like expanding outwards. They pay people to go out and like build a settlement, and then they're allowed to like defend it violently. It's basically homesteading, but encroaching into Palestinian land. It's really fucked up. Anyway, like if the Palestinians attack the homesteaders, then it gives the IDF supposedly grounds to move in and like bring in military power against like the random like people in the countryside trying to take back their land in the West Bank. Yeah. Anyway, with that said, I think it's really important to recognize that like when you use terms like genocide's a legal term. You guys know that, right? Like that's a term that is a legal term, and the only case in which calling this a genocide really matters at all is if like internationally it is decided that what Israel's doing is a genocide, and it is no longer supported. It has not been decided a genocide. It has not been decided that it is a genocide. Haven't the international community also been calling out Israel for its apartheid policies? I've heard at least that within the past 5 years. Nope, because you made that up. Do you want to know why you made that up? Because the definition of apartheid means you have to be living within the nation for it to be apartheid. Are you talking about the apartheid that Palestinians in Israel live under? Because if you're in Gaza or the West Bank, you aren't living under apartheid. You have to be a member, you have to be a citizen or in that nation to be living in apartheid. Yeah, Palestine's its own country. They can't be Hamas would have to be the one doing the apartheid to the Palestinians for that to be a thing. You're just using bad words to describe what's happening. You understand that's what I'm calling out, right? That's the issue. You just used apartheid. It's a word that sounds right. It sounds super right because it's like 95% there, right? But it's a very specific term that absolutely 100% is not what's happening here. What the fuck, Zan? Palestine isn't a country? Oh my god. It's a country to me, motherfucker. Palestine's literally like its own nation as we recognize it. That's the whole point of this, right? That there should be a single, like, liberated nation of Palestine. Palestine is under Israel's control. Yes, I'm very aware. Good God. Zan's literally not what's happening. It's hard to argue from chat though, and I don't feel like getting banned. I'm gonna fucking lose it. I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose it. You guys have to disagree with me, but like none of you can actually make a solid argument, because if you do, then I'll pick it apart and like show how fucking wrong it is. So you guys just want to be able to say you're really wrong, but I'm just gonna have to leave you at saying you're wrong, and I just don't have time to argue with you, and I just don't have the time to educate you. You obviously don't. You know you're wrong.
Someone who is literally at the center of a quite big news story in America for harassing a famous star. You, Hassan?
No, it was for clout. She was doing it for clout. That's why she went on the show, also for clout, which you were correct on pointing out that using the ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza and what's happening to the Palestinian people as a vehicle to create more social clout for yourself, social capital for yourself is pretty disingenuous, pretty messed up.
I have to jump in there, though, because isn't that what everybody's doing? Isn't that what this show is also doing? Because you're talking about create political clout, to create noise,
I'll come back
to get clicks, to make money.
Listen, let's not all be disingenuous,
no,
right?
But the whole conversation, and actually Crackhead Bonnie isn't that different to you.
Well, actually,
and Crackhead Bonnie said it herself. She said, we're no different. And I kind of agree with Crackhead Bonnie. I didn't think I'd say it.
If you think there's any correlation between what she just
I'm already annoyed by this person. Is this person on the pro-Israel side? I'm already annoyed by them already. Okay. The person who went on, HASAN correctly calls out, is going on for clout. HASAN would know a clout goblin when he sees one. This person is now saying, yes, but the Palestinian side is just doing this for clicks too. No, I'd say the majority of the Palestinian side, no matter how dumb some of their arguments may be and how crazy some of their behavior might be, most of them are motivated by a genuine desire to preserve human life. Because there's a lot of that being snuffed out by the IDF right now. A lot more than there is by Hamas even. And so when there's that much emotions going around, then yes, obviously people are going to, get a little... There's going to be some emotional reactions. But, like, he's playing a centrist game and he'll be doing it for the rest of the segment. This guy? I thought this guy's, like the pro-Israeli dude. I'm already annoyed by him. Maybe it's his hair.
That someone's screaming over someone and not letting them speak. Right. There's definitely a correlation.
Well, you think that I've treated you like she treated
No, I'm just saying that I think that actually you aren't that different. You're trying to do the same thing.
I'll come back
You're just doing it in a different way.
No, it's a preposterous suggestion. I do not do what she does, right? But Hassan, here's the point I would make to you. A lot of people think a lot of these protesters at universities in America are performative. The ones who are chanting their support for Hamas, the ones who are chanting about Intifada and pretending it's not about a...
Well, the ones chanting for Hamas definitely are performative. The ones supporting Free Palestine or chanting Free Palestine and like Palestinians deserve to live and shit like that. Not necessarily. They're college students. They are protesting. They're protesting what they see as mass killing. Well, I would call what Israel is doing as just outright like colonialism. Like, I feel like we can go so much more raw with what we call what Israel's doing than like ethnic cleansing, genocide. It's colonialism. They want to take the land. They're using religion to justify it, like Manifest Destiny. They want the land. It's not a ethnic cleansing thing. Hell, they want to push the Palestinians out into Egypt and wherever that, like, if they can push the Palestinians away, they'll do that. It's colonialism is what it is. They want the land and they want the people that are currently there off the land, whether they're dead or just fucking gone. That's how they want to do it. There are the nationalists, absolutely, in their government that, like, who's a good example of, like, a far-right Israeli nationalist in Israeli government? You guys could probably think of one faster than me, who have gone on record saying that if they could, they would exterminate the Palestinian people. There are absolutely people in the government who believe that. However, that is not the standard position of the Israeli government. The standard position of the Israeli government is your bog standard imperialist colonialism is what it is. They want land, and they want the people on the land gone. By any means necessary. And, like, the reason Hamas exists and has the power it does today is because Hamas was the most equipped and capable of fighting back against Israel, and so they get the support. And unfortunately, this has led to a basically fish in a barrel effect of the Palestinian civilians for decades upon decades upon decades upon decades upon decades being caught in the crossfire. You see how you can describe this, like, this issue in a way that's, like, very clearly indicative of what's happening and how bad what Israel is doing here. And it's not like a both sidesing thing. It's like, yeah, Israel, like, Hamas is pretty bad, but they aren't able to leverage anywhere near the amount of horrible, like, death as Israel is. So that's the real problem. This is why you shouldn't support Israel. Like, you don't need to call it a super emotionally charged word that has, like, debatable definitions, and people will debate you on that shit, and you will not look good if they, like, know their shit. It's easier to just call it what it is, explain in detail what is happening, because it is kind of your job to educate people. What does pushing them out entail? Where do they go? Where's their food, water, shelter? What about Egypt not wanting to take in the influx of refugees? Like, I feel you're missing the point. We can agree this is bad, whether the term genocide fits or not. Regardless, if it fits, it's still bad, but then the shoe fits. Let's not pull out... Oh my God, you need to call it a bad thing. You have to call it the thought-terminating cliche. You have to. You have to, because you can't explain what's happening there to people and, like, let them understand there. Like, if they... Okay... If someone asks, if you tell someone it's a genocide, and they ask you, okay, are they like capturing Palestinians and, like, executing them? Like, what's the policy on, like, if someone who's Palestinian and is, like, non-combative, like, is seen by, like, an IDF soldier? Is that, like, is the standard, like, look at the mass graves? Yes, they are. Link me something then, Liam Linson. Oh my God, I forgot I have the most annoying fans in the world. They'll just make things up and not link anything. If you don't understand the words you're using, don't be mad at chat for correcting you. Colonialism is a type of ethnic cleansing, just a softened language of it. You are doing what pedos do when they say they are technically... Alright, well, enjoy the ban, Sloth Whiskey. You're doing what pedos do. Good one, buddy. All right, who else is getting banned? Akira Tanakel? Enjoy the one-day ban. Why won't it go through? There we go. There we go. Annoying people, gone. I'm tired of these annoying people. Too much semantics.
Violent uprising. I mean, do you accept that a lot of that is not only performative, but public demonstration of support for terrorism?
Absolutely not. I don't think that... I mean, all protests are technically performative.
They're literally missing their organs. Jesus Christ. Send me a link. Send me a link to the mass graves of Palestinians that have been dug and filled by the IDF that are missing their fucking organs. The fucking Israeli organ harvesters. Where are they? Please, link me something. Stop saying shit and link stuff. God, I fucking hate you people sometimes. Not you. If you're based in chat and you're cool, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the annoying people. I love you. If you're not based right, like DeLancer, I'm snuggling you right now. I'm hugging you. Zan, stop Stunlock. Thank you.
Obviously, but there's a very clear-cut goal for the...
Wait, real DeLancer? Holy shit. Andrew Tate trial incoming?
The group of students at Columbia and many other universities. I was in Melbourne not that long ago, And I attended a Palestinian protest there, a Palestinian rally there, and the students there were also demanding the exact same thing, that they their colleges divest from a lot of the companies that are aligned with the state of Israel, a lot of the companies that are directly involved in operations in the West Bank, a lot of the companies that are playing a role in the regular maintenance of the apartheid regime of Israel and helping Israel conduct an ethnic cleansing campaign. That is the ultimate goal. That is why they're trying to
The unfortunate thing is, and HASAN can never do this either, nor will anyone in my chat that was like disagreeing with me here, they can never admit that Hamas is bad. Like, I'll say a million times over, Israel is bad, and like you should not support it, like Zionism is bad. Like, it's just so easy for me to say these words, and yet every person that I argue with on this can't say Hamas is bad. You know? Like, they can't say Hamas is bad. Like, if you could say Hamas is bad, then you're one of the people that I'm not taking issue with here. Yeah, it's really bizarre to me because Hamas is anti-Semitic. Like, it is. And I've seen, like, a really bizarre thing happening lately with the left. Oh, people are going to get mad at me for this one. I'm going to criticize Vosh. I watched one of Vosh's segments the other day. It was the same segment where I saw him claiming that, like, a bunch of the atrocities committed by Hamas on, October 7th, that they were proven false. Not true. Like, most of the things that were popular claims then have maintained truthfulness from what I can tell. I mean, I've seen a fair few of the videos of the hacked up bodies in the back of the trucks, so that's kind of hard to fake. And Hamas took credit for it. So on top of that, there was this other thing where there's been a spike in anti-Jewish hate crimes, and when learning that, like, Vosh acted very incredulously upon learning that. I was like, bro, you know Jewish people have maintained the top of the list of the most hate-crimed minority group in America, like, top of the list every year for, like, since America was a thing. Like, Jewish people are the biggest targets of hate crimes. Like, period. Historically and in modern day. So it was just really weird how incredulous he got about that, because I get that he was being incredulous about the conclusion they were trying to draw, that, like, support for Palestine equals a rise in Jewish hate. But, like, the way to respond to that is not saying, like, I don't think there's been a rise in Jewish hate, or I don't think that, like, Jewish people are facing problems with hate crimes. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. I mean, no, Jewish people are the biggest victims of hate crimes right now, and have been for a while. Let me change my gain really fast because I got the sunlight coming through my window. Like, that line was a little, yeah. That line was a little, oof. Here's a link to the mass grave stuff. Thank you, Game Master 19. Oh, good, United Nations. I like this. Mass graves in Gaza show that victims' hands were tied, says UN Rights Office. April 23rd of April, 2024. So this is like, when was that? 3 days ago. So this is super recent. The development follows the recovery of hundreds of bodies buried deep in the ground and covered with waste over the weekend at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, central Gaza, and at Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City in the north. A total of 283 bodies were recovered at Nasser Hospital, of which 42 were identified. Among the deceased were allegedly older people, women, and wounded, while others were found tied with their hands, tied and stripped of their clothes, said Ravina Shamdasani, spokesperson of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Is this a mass grave in Gaza? Citing the local health authorities in Gaza, Ms. Shamdasani added that more bodies have been found at the Al-Shifa Hospital. The large health complex was the enclave's main tertiary facility before war erupted on the 7th of October. It was the focus of an Israeli military incursion to root out Hamas militants allegedly operating inside, which ended at the beginning of this month. After 2 weeks of intense clashes, UN humanitarians assessed the site and confirmed on the 5th of April that Al-Shifa was an empty shell, with most equipment reduced to ashes. The report suggests that there were 30 Palestinian bodies buried in 2 graves in the courtyard of Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City, one in front of the emergency building and the others in front of the dialysis building. Ms. Shamdasani told journalists in Geneva. The bodies of 12 Palestinians have now been identified from these locations at Al-Shifa, the OHCHR spokesperson continued, but identification has not yet been possible for the remaining individuals. Yes, war crime. War crime. This is a war crime. Is it going to be tried as a war crime? There are reports that the hands of some of these bodies were also tied. Yes, war crime. Is it going to be charged as a war crime? Ms. Shamdasani said, adding that there could be many more victims, despite the claim by the Israeli Defense Forces to have killed 200 Palestinians during the Al-Shifa medical complex operation. So they claimed that they killed 200, and they found 30 bodies. Does that not mean that Israel's saying, look harder, there's more? Wait, is that what Israel said? Did the IDF respond, look harder, there's more? Because they said they found 30 bodies in 2 graves, 12 have been identified, and the IDF's response is, yeah, we killed like 200 there. Jesus fucking Christ. War crimes. But once again, this is the same type of shit that's happening to the Ukrainians. Is what's Russia doing to Ukraine a genocide? No, not really. Like that's not necessarily what it is. It's evil, it's awful, and we gotta like fight it and stop it. But like, it's not necessarily a genocide. Like, I get why you guys are so like finicky about this. Like, there's a lot of reasons to want to say it's a genocide, but it's just a really weird specific word usually applied in the realm of like international politics. And if the world of international politics isn't holding Israel to these charges, then there's really, like, calling it that really has no power. You simply need to explain to people what Israel is doing. Wasn't that more powerful, though, than saying genocide, by the way? Wasn't me reading about finding a mass grave that had tied up bodies more powerful than saying it's a genocide? Why not say instead, the UN put out a report recently where they had found one of their reporters, after searching a site at the Al-Shifa hospital, found 2 mass graves that contained at least 30, possibly up to 200 tied up, hands behind their backs, Palestinians. We don't know if they were soldiers. They could have been Hamas. They could have been, we don't really know what happened. All we know is that the IDF says they struck that place and killed 200, and here's a mass grave of tied up people. Clearly something is happening here. Yeah, like, I don't know. They literally kidnapped Ukrainian children to raise them as Russians culturally. It's definitely their intent, despite not being successful. Cultural genocide? Is that what you're saying Russia's trying to do? Culturally genocide the Ukrainians. Is cultural genocide even, like, a term that's used? Let's see. Cultural genocide or ethnocide is the attempted destruction of a group's culture, religion, and identity. It is a coercive act imposed by a dominant group upon a weaker or minority group. Cultural genocide has been associated with imperialism and settler colonialism. Okay, I guess that could possibly apply. Because they want the Ukrainians to be Russians, I guess, but it's not... They want the culture of Ukraine to die. Okay, I can see that. Like Myanmar was ethnically cleansed. I need to do a big Myanmar research stream. Yes, the Uyghur Muslims are being culturally genocided by China. I mean, aren't they just... Isn't what's happening there like just a outright genocide? Like they actually live under apartheid? As in, like, if you are a Uyghur Muslim in China, you live under constant surveillance. You will, like, upon anything that the government decides, they will come and get you and take you to a camp and force you into, like, backbreaking labor against your will with no charges until you're dead. They use, like, cattle prods and they electrocute people. Like, they literally have concentration camps. Like, I'd say that, like, saying, okay, so you agree that the Uyghur Muslim genocide is a genocide. It's like, yeah, they're literally doing like concentration camps. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like we're just picking at like unimportant, like, it just seems unimportant. I don't like the fact that everybody needs to use these like super thought terminating cliche words in order to bring emotions, like this emotional air to the discussion. It's so easy to challenge. Okay, well, is it really a genocide? Because the technical definition of genocide is this and that. And as you can see, the Israeli, and like I've seen a million times lefties get their hair split in a really bad way and look really bad to a general audience, failing to prove that what Israel is doing is a genocide. It's a hard claim to prove when challenged by somebody who is like well rehearsed in the history, because the fact is there's a lot more history to this than you even know. If you go back far enough, this land didn't belong to the Palestinians. There's that little aspect I haven't even gotten up to yet. Like there's a lot on this, you know. There's a lot to this, okay? It's a fucking complicated issue.
Very clearly cause a little bit of a disruption and engage in.
But are you comfortable? Okay, but are you comfortable?
The most American thing you can do.
Are you comfortable with the ones who are seen chanting support for Hamas or chanting about Intifada?
I am perfectly comfortable with people chanting about the Intifada. As far as the Hamas thing goes, any kind of protest is always going to have a litany of random people, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. You have to look at the actual tangible goals that the protest movement is.
Yes, okay, he's making a good point. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Just because there are stupid, annoying people doesn't mean that the overarching big picture isn't important. And while it's good to call those people out, acting as though those people invalidate the core message that Israel is doing harm to massive amounts of innocent people and that needs to be given attention and needs to stop, that doesn't change anything. Like the fact that there's some crazy person harassing Alec Baldwin doesn't change that. Thank you, Hasan. There we go. That's a good argument from him there.
Stating they're interested in. And I think that those goals, and I think you will agree with me on this, Piers, I think those goals are pretty valid overall. I think that they want to, one.
Yeah, Intifada just means like fighting back. Like Intifada definitely has some connections to like terroristic groups in the past, but generally, like the majority of its usage has been like a more like liberating term. It's not like a terroristic phrase. A lot of conservatives are trying to do that, like say, yes, if you say this, then you are pro-terrorism. No, it's just. It's a little LARPy, but I don't think the people saying Intifada are terrorists necessarily.
One, recenter the attention to the genocide that is ongoing in Gaza, and two, demand that their tuition dollars do not go to operations in Israel. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a campus. There's going to be a sister campus that is being built in Tel Aviv right now for Columbia University. This means that Columbia University, which once housed the likes of the late great Edward Said and many others, and that currently has many Palestinian students who pay tuition for projects such as this one, will not be able to go to that sister campus. I find that abhorrent, but it's everyday existence in Israel.
Let me bring in Emily. You've been listening to all.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, that there will be a sister campus to an American campus that Palestinian students specifically will not be allowed to go to because of the nation that it'll be in's like laws around Palestinians. That's a really good point. Thank God. Oh man, I'm glad I don't have to cringe at Hasan so far. Like, notice by the way, I've yet to cringe at Hasan. Like, I've cringed at you guys in chat. I've cringed at like this guy and the person before and Piers Morgan. I've yet to cringe at Hasan so far. He's been a good boy so far. I appreciate it.
Well, this is your response.
With all due respect, Hasan, why do you feel that Columbia or any college for that matter owes you to divest from Israel? Why do you think your opinion is...
Why do you think that Columbia College owes it to you to not support a country that discriminates in their law against a particular group of people from a particular part of the world, of a particular ethnic group? Why do you have a problem with that? Why do you have a problem with Columbia supporting a nation that discriminates against a particular group of people, and that the students of that school won't be able to go visit the sister school? Like, why do you have a problem with that? The British accent makes it even more sufferable. I like how I went from her having the British accent to a Valley Girl accent, because I'm going to be honest, looking at her, she looks like she should have a Valley Girl accent. Jesus Christ, look at the lip injections, guys. You guys know that's what that is, right? She's got, like, they injected her lips with shit to make them puffy like that. This woman has gotten a lot of plastic surgery. Holy shit. No hate to you guys, and, like, I'm not trying to be hateful to anybody, like, if you've gotten plastic surgery or whatever, but, like, this woman has gotten a lot of plastic surgery. Like, goddamn. That nose. That fucking nose, dude. Holy shit. The brows have been completely reshaped. Like, she's gotten a full facial reconstruction. She's had full FFS. Feminizing facial reconstruction surgery. She's had that fully. The full FFS surgery. Literally, I'm not joking. Look, every detail of her face, you can see the telltale signs of plastic surgery. Jesus Christ. Nothing about this woman is real, which will go to show you nothing that comes out of her mouth will be true or real either.
Is correct, because so far I heard the classic buzzwords: apartheid, discriminatory, ethnic cleansing, and genocide, which is funny because it's all the exact opposite. So if I may ask you, what about Israel is apartheid? You also just said the students in Israel, the campus in Israel would not allow...
Oh, God. All right, let's see. Listen. Fucking hell. I hope Hasan's able to, like, move the goalposts from the apartheid point, because it's going to be a hard argument to make. If I were Hasan here, I'd be like, if I had to enter Hasan's body right here, I would do everything in my power to goalpost move away from having said it was apartheid, and, like, just try to find a way to shoehorn in as many war crimes Israel has committed against the Palestinians as possible to try to, like, dampen that, because she's kind of gone for like I said, I've seen a lot of people who argue for Israel, and they'll immediately attack your use of words like apartheid, genocide, etc., because there are a lot of technicalities in there they can get at you from. It's a really easy just gotcha that they'll go after. I tried to tell you.
Are you confused, or do you know nothing about the country of Israel? Because let me remind you, Jews are not allowed in the West Bank and Gaza.
Yeah, if I had to enter Hasan right here. Yeah, okay.
However, Arabs have full Israeli citizenship, have the rights, are members of the Knesset, which is the equivalent of, you can think of Congress, and even prosecuted a former Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, an Arab judge. So what apartheid exactly are you speaking about? What genocide? What ethnic cleansing? And secondly, how dare you say it's okay to talk about an intifada? Let me remind you, the intifada
Come on, Hasan,
last time it happened in Israel.
Don't let her gish gallop. Don't let her gish gallop. She's a woman. Talk over her. Use her man voice.
Israel consisted of thousands of people dying in bus bombings. So are you saying that you support terrorism and killing innocent people?
Well, intifada simply just means revolution, and I'm an American, and in 1776,
violent
we did
revolution.
one of those, and it was pretty fucking good.
Dude, come on, man. Hasan, your entire brand is hating America. You can't play the whole, I'm American, I love America, we did a revolution, I love America. You can't do that when your entire brand is America is always bad and you hate America all the time, no matter what.
Yeah. What do you think? The American,
okay,
do you think the American Revolution
we also
was a
bombed Hiroshima. We also bombed Hiroshima.
Okay, wait, he's doing it.
I know, and that was also...
He's moving the goalpost. Okay, he's doing exactly what I said he should do if he doesn't want to get, like, steamrolled here. He immediately moved the goalpost away from having to defend the use of the term apartheid, because that's smart on his part. That's smart on his part. She will definitely try to get him down in the weeds on that.
So unjust and unimaginably cruel, but of course the Israel Defender is also defending nuking civilians and killing them by the hundreds of thousands. Now listen, let's get back. Let's refocus the conversation to the points that you made. Let's refocus the conversation to the points that you made.
Okay,
you said,
just to remind everybody, I'm actually moderating this, but that's an interesting point that Emily just raised, Hasan. It does seem that you're very selective about the violence that you support. That when you support it, it's justified. Yeah. When other people use things...
He didn't control the conversation fast enough. He let her get to a point that's a really good attack against Hasan. Hasan's a massive pro-violence LARPer. That's the thing. Hasan loves saying he likes violence and violence is good when it's something that he agrees with, you know? Like, he loves LARPing, like, pro-violence. But he criticizes violence, like, as a principle, as if violence itself is bad when it's a group he doesn't like doing it. He likes to do the LARP, yeah? And so she allowed an opening here for a really effective line of attack against Hasan, because he loves LARPing the fucking, like, revolutionary vibe, you know?
In a violent way that you don't support, it's unjustified. Seems like it's all skewed to what Hasan Piker thinks.
Well, not necessarily just what I think. I think that there are obvious markers, obvious boundaries. I don't think violence against civilians is justified.
What is LARPing in this case? HASAN loves talking about how much like violent revolution is what we need, and it's great and all that. And he's constant. Like, for example, he defended the Houthis, like the Houthi pirates taking over like civilian shipping ships, like shipping cargo ships in the international waters in the Red Sea. And a bunch of other shit like that. Obviously, he said America deserves 9/11, all that good stuff. So, yeah, HASAN, it's a very good line of attack against HASAN. He very clearly is in favor of violence when it's like the stuff he supports, and he makes that loud and clear because he can't, like, not say that out loud, I guess. And so it's an easy line of attack against him. Remember when World War III was supposed to start over Yemen? Yeah, he said World War III was supposed to start over Yemen and a bunch of other shit, too, yeah. A lot of people
I've talked about October 7 on this very same show, saying that it was a tragedy. It was atrocities that occurred on October 7 specifically. When you target civilians in any capacity, I think that is unacceptable. However, this does not mean that violence will not occur in many circumstances. Violence has occurred in every single revolutionary action, many good revolutionary actions. Obviously, America bombing here.
The really complicated part of all of this is that there's no, like, the solution can't just be what I wish it could be, which is just Israel stop. You know? Like, like I think a lot of people either think, or at least, I don't know how many people think that, but at least I wish it could be as easy as just Israel has to stop. Like, if Israel just stopped, it would be all good. The problem is Hamas is desiring the extermination of Jews and the destruction of Israel, and there will never be a day where Hamas just stops launching missiles at Israel, you know? And as much as the Iron Dome is meant to be this, like, impenetrable, like, defense, it's really not. It's really not. It's just an array of anti-missile defense systems in the most populated parts of Israel. The missiles have been more than ever lately getting through the Iron Dome and hitting relatively populated areas from, like, Hamas. A lot of them are coming from Iran and other, like, allies to Hamas that are outside of the Gaza Strip. So on one hand, it's like, fuck, I wish Israel could just stop, right? Like, I wish it was as simple as Israel's solely the aggressor, the Palestinians are just, all of them just vibing out, trying to live their lives, and Israel's the sole aggressor. I wish it was that simple, because then it would just be Israel stop. But then there's stuff like October 7th and future October 7ths that will happen. If Israel just stops now, Hamas will regroup and immediately do another October 7th the second they have another opening. It's like, because Hamas is anti-Semitic. They're just as anti-Semitic as, like, any Nazi group, right? There's no stopping their ideological fervor, and they've got the weapons to attack Israel, and they want to take down Israel and destroy it. And so Israel's always going to have that Hamas, both as a genuine threat to its people and as a argument they can use to justify attack all the time. Unless Hamas stops being a factor, they'll always have that justification. I wish it just wasn't. I just wish it was more simple, you know? Like, it's not as simple as just Israel's the sole aggressor in this entire thing, you know?
Hiroshima and Nagasaki with an atom bomb. That was not a very
was what
good
Hamas did on October the 7th.
It was not a very good moment for human civilization at all.
Was what Hamas did on October the 7th? Was what Hamas did on October the 7th an example of what you would call a justified revolution?
I don't look at every single act of violence. I look at
You've literally just been reciting a whole load of them.
Of oppression.
Why are you avoiding October the 7th?
You do it too.
No, I don't.
I'm not avoiding it. I've talked about it a million times over.
Let me ask you one more time. Hang on.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. If you're going to defend Israel's actions, you have to. We literally just read an article about, like, a mass grave. Now, granted, I'm sure some pro-Israel person would be like, we don't know where the bodies came from. They could have been executed by Hamas. But it's like, I don't know if the dates even line up, like, well enough for them to be bodies that would have been buried by Hamas. And also, like, I don't know. It's just that, regardless, it's a lot. It's very easy for these types to just try to get you in the grass on this stuff. And I'm trying to tell you guys how you can argue against Zionism in a way that they can't nitpick. If you simply state, here are some atrocities they've committed. Hey, There's no ambiguity around whether they did these things or not. These are war crimes. Like they are war crimes. Like they are designated war crimes. Like why? Like I feel like that's so much more powerful, and they can't argue that. They can't say, well, that's not really apartheid, but they can't say, well, those people aren't really dead. You know, like I feel like it's just better to try to argue the actual atrocities, not the semantics of what the atrocities should be called.
Emily, hang on. Hasan, let me just ask you directly one more time. Let me ask you one more time. Do you believe what happened on October the 7th was a justified act of revolution? Yes or no?
I do not, and I do think that. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me clarify. Let me clarify something very important here.
Why do you have to clarify? No, Hasan, just say no. Of course not. October 7th was not a justifiable act of revolution. They raped women. They butchered bodies. They paraded them in the backs of pickup trucks. I saw the video. It's not fake. It's contrary to what some lefty people might tell you, that did happen. Hamas is bad. Hasan is pro-Hamas, though, so he kind of has to do the caveat here. Fuck.
Events that unfolded on October 7th were atrocities. That much is clear. Those atrocities could have been avoided if Israel was not an apartheid regime. Israel has...
No, that's not... You can't do that line of argument, because Israel has been an apartheid regime, if that's what you want to call it that. Fine, then apartheid regime. It has been that for decades upon decades upon decades up until that point. History didn't start on October 7th. You can't go back in time and change that. That does not justify the other shit that happened. If October 7th was nothing but an attack, simply just an attack, like on military and just like trying to break into Israel and engage in a military operation, that would not have been like, it wouldn't be this tragedy that you're like a horrible person if you defend it, right? Like that's not the thing that they did that was the horrible part. The horrible part was the people that they killed were largely just like civilians. And by civilians, I mean like teenagers and young 20s, like people that were just at like a concert. Like, they were just at a concert, and then all of a sudden they were, like, surrounded by people with guns. And many were decapitated. Many were killed. Thankfully, a fair few of them survived and were, like, exchanged in hostage exchanges. But then on the other end of things, Hamas has been trained to understand that Israel doesn't really care that much about prisoners. It seems like the way Israel behaves, it honestly doesn't seem like they give a fuck about the prisoners Hamas takes. So Hamas doesn't take as many prisoners as like would be ideal. You know, like you would prefer they only take prisoners and they don't just kill innocent people, but they tend to kill more than they imprison for a variety of reasons. Largely that Israel doesn't tend to give a fuck if they take prisoners. They consider those people dead anyway a lot of the time, especially after a couple days have passed. They're like, yep, probably dead.
Been an apartheid regime for 75 years.
Can you answer how Israel's an apartheid regime?
In the early...
You keep repeating
No,
that.
you can't just chime in. You can't just chime in. You ask me a question. You want it?
Why
you ask me a question.
Israel an
I'm going to give you an
regime?
answer.
Because you're repeating
Israel.
Hamas intentionally targeted civilians. Israel doesn't give a fuck who's in the way. Evil 1 and Evil 2. Exactly, Chungus the Large. That's pretty good. That's pretty good of just laying it out simply. Israel indiscriminately just fucking... What's the input for the Eagle Cluster Strike in Helldivers? They just Eagle Cluster Strike anything that vaguely looks Hamas and say, well, sorry if like 152 Palestinians just got vaporized, but we got those 2 Hamas guys in that tunnel, and that's all that matters. And meanwhile, Hamas has like kill all the Jews on their flags and like attacks and butchers Israeli populations. It's like the people in power on both sides are actually evil, like actually evil. Like Israel is evil, like the oligarchy power structure of Israel, evil, not the people of Israel, they're just civilians. And Hamas, not many of its soldiers are actually like 12-year-old boys or whatever who have just lost their family and now this is all they have. But like a lot of the governing body of Hamas are also evil. And both of these groups are groups that we politically disagree with entirely. Okay? Like, the Hitler particles emanating from both of these groups are immense, okay? Like, we would do... both sides are actually bad, but I'm not both sidesing it, because the side that is good are the Palestinian civilians. They are the most good side. To be fair, the Palestinian civilians don't have, as far as I know, a high rate of like nationalism and like genocide fervor in their civilian population compared to like the marches you'll get in Israel of like 14-year-old boys supporting like they want a genocide of the Palestinians. The thing is, the people who will tell you that there is not a genocide of the Palestinians are the people in Israel who want a genocide of the Palestinians. They're like, no, we're not. What we're doing there now is not a genocide, but we should be doing one. That's what they're saying. And that is a popular sentiment in Israel that does not seem reflected nearly as much in like the civilians of Gaza and the West Bank. Zan, you're right, but there's only one side that can accomplish change immediately without violence, and it's not Hamas. America, I would hope. Like, hopefully America can continue to leverage its weight to try to reduce the amount of shit that's like going wrong here. We were so close to a really like solid era of relative peace for a moment there too, because Biden had negotiated a peace deal between Israel and Hamas, and it had been in place for a few days until Iran launched their attack at Israel, and then all bets were off. Iran reacted to the ceasefire with it was a ceasefire. We got the ceasefire. It happened for 3 days. Biden managed to get us the ceasefire. And 3 days later, Iran responded by launching a torrent of drones at Israel, and then all bets are off, all cards off the table. Yep, back to fire.
Has been an apartheid regime since its inception. Until 1967, Israel was an apartheid regime for the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the Arabs, as you called them. There was a two-tier criminal justice system. They were subjected to the military court processes and not the civil court processes until 1967. After 1967, they got citizenship. There are obviously still many different social issues that pertain to the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the Arabs that are living in Israel, those who are not Jewish, of course. However, Israel currently is occupying the West Bank. There are more than...
My problem is, isn't apartheid race-based? Let me check. Is apartheid race-based? A policy of segregation or discrimination on grounds of race. Yeah, but in Israel, if you are a Palestinian and you assimilate and you worship... Like you become a practicing Jew and you like swear fealty to Netanyahu. Like you just got to get on your knee and like bend the knee and like bow your nose to the ground to King Netanyahu. Then I'm pretty sure you're relatively fine, right? Also, Palestinians aren't a race. Religious apartheid? Is that a thing? I feel like you're putting a word before another word. Also, Palestinians aren't a religion either. Guys, once again, this is literally it's literally too complicated to be described as simply ethnic genocide, religious apartheid. Like, these words are not only like weird, like semantic things, but they're also not... Like, they're too simple of words to describe what's actually happening. Like, what's actually happening is so awful and deep in its awfulness that just oversimplifies it, too, to be honest. It's not religious-based. It's a ethnic, cultural, national, religious, discriminatory... regime, I guess, would be like the best way to describe it. Like, but I just think it's better to just talk about the things Israel is doing. Like, don't debate about the big picture, debate about the small picture, because once you've debated enough about the small picture, the big picture becomes clear. Once you've gone over enough of Israel's atrocities, it becomes pretty clear that a lot of the shit they're doing, at least, like, even to someone who knows nothing about the issue, to them, after you've told them about a few of the atrocities Israel's done, they're going to know that at least most of that shit probably wasn't necessary. And that's going to paint their opinion of Israel quite a bit. Apartheid does just mean apartness and Afrikaans. Yeah, it's race-based segregation is the definition of apartheid, word for word.
2 million Palestinians that live in the West Bank. Israel's illegally occupying the West Bank. There are checkpoints. There are license plates that restrict Palestinian travel. The Israeli operations in the West Bank have destroyed Palestinian statehood. Now, of course, all of this is readily available for those who want to learn about it, yourself included. I hope you look it up. B'Tselem is an Israeli human rights organization which declared Israel to be an apartheid regime in 2021, in April of 2021. Amnesty International declared Israel to be an apartheid regime.
People also forget that some of Israel's motivation, like Israel's motivations are a lot of things too. Some of it's like religious. For those of you guys that don't, I've sped this video up a bunch. He's not talking fast. I've just sped this video up a crazy amount. A lot of people don't know this, but like religion, like I believe it's Christians, believe that the Jews must control the Holy Land, that is, like from the river to the sea, must be controlled by Israel for the rapture to happen, for Jesus to descend and like do battle with Satan or whatever the fuck. Like Christians and a lot of religious fanatics, like in America, actually believe, and a lot of Israelis do too, that like it is their job as ordained by God as his chosen people to take that land, because once it's held by them, they have like completed one of the prerequisites needed for the return of God or whatever. It's like it's crazy fucking shit.
Before I move, hang on. Before I just want to bring in our two British panelists here, but just finally, just to clarify, Hasan, I can't quite work out whether you said you do think October the 7th was
Southern Baptists believe it. Snake lover. I grew up in Florida. Southern Baptists believe that shit bigger than shit. Southern Baptists are like the most anti-Semitic, like pro-Israel people you'll ever run into. It's really bizarre.
Unjustified act of revolution, or whether you change your mind. So can you clarify?
I think that violent means of maintaining an apartheid is inevitably going to yield violent retaliation.
Stop this line of argument. Trying to justify shit by saying it was inevitable. Like 9/11 was inevitable. Like this isn't a good or effective line of argument. It doesn't appeal to the average person. It just makes you look bad. What you need to say is these were horrible atrocities that were committed by a horrible group that is Hamas, but what I care about are the people of Palestine, the civilians that are dying in scores because of the IDF and Hamas's battle with each other, you know? It's so easy to denounce the horror story that even the majority of people that criticize Israel in America don't think was good. And then to immediately move on to, okay, now here's the horrible shit Israel's doing that you should not, like, defend this shit for me. How do you feel about Israel doing this? How do you feel about Israel doing that? Go on the attack.
So was it justified?
Something that is completely avoidable.
Was it justified?
Civilian deaths are never justified.
You know what, Hasan?
Hang on, Emily.
You look Hirsch Golder Poland's mother in the eyes. No, you look this person's mother in the eyes and you tell him that this was justified. You tell him his arm being blown off and being held in captivity for 200 days is justified.
I do love that the Israel defender has no capacity to fucking hear anything I'm saying.
Palestinians who are made of identity.
It just... If you're not going to respect me
you
and listen to what I have to say, which, by the way, of course you don't respect.
Gaza.
If you talk over each other, nobody can hear you.
I think it's not. I think it's the entire world.
No, it is. You think
hang on, Emily, please. Let me handle this, Emily. Hasan, just before I come to the two people who are with me here, I just need some clarity here because it seems like you're dancing around whether you think October the 7th was justified or not.
Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this back and forth masturbation? I've already given you my fucking position.
Why are you doing this?
I'm sick and tired of repeating.
You never want to do this, like, whining. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? You immediately need to start moving the conversation yourself. The second you recognize that you're in a hostile debate environment, the best thing you can do for yourself is to immediately start moving the conversation on the attack. Make them defend what they defend. That's awful. That's horrible and indefensible.
Over and over again.
Okay, ask
this demon next to me wearing a fucking IDF dog tag.
Only when it's Jews, it's okay.
Ask this fucking demon next to me wearing an IDF dog tag if she actually thinks Israel's actions are justifiable.
Home.
Do you
it's
see
to bring
me
the hostages home. The hostages that you rightly believe belong in the tunnels of Gaza.
I'm going to give you...
Yeah, what's Israel doing about those hostages, by the way? What are they doing to negotiate getting those hostages back? Because, like, the word hostage implies that they are being held for ransom, right? Like a hostage is held as some sort of leverage. So what is that leverage then? What is it that Hamas wants that Israel will not give them that like Hamas wants in exchange for the hostages? Why are the hostages not back? It's been a year. Well, not a year, but you know what I mean. It's been like 6 months. Like why are the hostages not back? What is it that Hamas wants that Israel won't give them? Maybe Israel has bigger things on their plate than those hostages. And I think maybe she does too, and this is all performative as fuck. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Saul Goodman wearing the ribbon for the flights that crashed into each other in Breaking Bad for the entire show. Like, in the first, 5 episodes or so after the plane crash happens, everybody in town is wearing the pins as, sort of a virtue signal of how much, they're sort of, what's the word for it? How heartbroken they are over it, and they're part of the community. And then Saul continues wearing it even well after that point because he's representing all of them in court, like the families and stuff, and everybody who had even debris land in their yard. It reminds me a bit of Saul continuing to wear that ribbon in Breaking Bad. The camera for him just goes to the top of the screen. Mine? Oh, this guy's? Oh, yeah. Listen. The camera's fine. Camera's fine where it is.
I'm going to let you two calm down. It's pointless. We cannot hear you when you talk over each other. Every time recently I have someone from both sides on, it goes like this.
I'm wearing this rusty necklace.
Please, can you listen to me, Emily?
Civilians in Gaza right now.
Can you stop doing this to each other, please? Nobody can understand a word either of you are saying. Now, let me come to Esther and James here. This is one of my problems, actually.
No, I want to hear if Emily condemns
Hassan, you will please let me moderate the debate.
I appreciate Hassan going on the attack, but it's a bad timing. Generally, at a moment like this, you want to play to appease the moderator, and then as soon as the moderator has given you a moment, then you go on the attack. Because then you've waited your turn, you look polite, you're not trying to yell over the moderator, you look good, the moderator thinks you look good, and then is more likely to give you an opening to go heavy on the attack with no microphone contention blocking you out, with a really good point attacking the person defending a horrible thing, this lady in this situation. So Hassan's making a good argument here, but you can hear it's getting muffled out by everybody else yelling over him because he's not waiting his turn. If he just played to the moderator right now and just played polite for just a second, he'd have his perfect opening.
About 30,000 people.
I've got two panelists here who've not had a word yet.
Because you're a fucking terrorist.
Please stop talking.
And I think you're a terrorist. And I think
fuck. Jesus Christ. What's the response to that going to be, I wonder? Let me think of a good zinger in response to that. I'm American and a leftist. I've been used to getting called a terrorist for being anti-war since the 1960s. That's probably, that would probably be the best response I could come up with on the fly.
A terrorist as well.
Okay, well, I'm not the one wearing.
Because until the hostages are home, don't expect the war to be over.
Yeah, I know.
Bring
you don't
them
care about
home.
the hostages. If you
I
care
love
about
how
the
you're
hostages,
condemning
you would
me. You
be
are
screaming at
exposing
Benjamin
your
Netanyahu.
own terrorism
Benjamin
on live
Netanyahu
television.
is the hostage
You are
killer.
exposing.
Benjamin Netanyahu has killed more hostages than
What do
Hamas.
you actually think you're achieving here?
For not only oppressing the Palestinian people, but for spreading terrorism. I don't see your outrage at Hamas. Israel gave Gaza back in 2005,
I would like to, please.
and Hamas has turned it into a terrorist haven.
Emily and Hassan, can you please show some...
What if instead of trying to talk over, every time she made a stupid point, Hassan just mewed like this? What if he just did that? Just silently muted the camera until it was his turn to talk.
Hamas
to the
is
other
the lesser
panelists.
evil in comparison to Israel.
Can you please stop talking, both of you, and let the other two panelists have a say?
Soundbite, Piers? I'll give
them some courtesy. Please, some courtesy for your co-panelists here. Now, Esther, this is one of the problems I have with this whole debate, is that increasingly it just descends into a screaming match between pro-Palestinians and pro-Israelis.
And the biggest losers are the victims of this war. 33,000 dead Palestinians, over 1,500 dead Israelis. These are the biggest victims of this because you're shouting at each other and nothing is...
Okay, this lady's actually the GOAT. All right, I like her the most now.
You're completely, forget having no courtesy for us. You're completely disrespecting actual victims of this conflict, which, by the way, didn't happen in a vacuum. And I think that's the most important thing to say about this. None of this happened in a vacuum. Of course, October the 7th was an atrocity, and it was completely unjustified. There was no justification for butchering people in the way that they did. But it didn't happen in a vacuum. A lot of the people that live in Gaza weren't even born at the time that Hamas came in power. So I really despise this. You're a terrorist sympathizer. You're a genocide supporter. All of this, when really the people that we should be talking about deserve better.
Okay. James.
I love her. She is the best one here. She is far more competent than HASAN. Once again, a woman has to come in to do a man's job far better than he is capable of. Times never change.
On the wider point of these protests.
Well, I couldn't get to that part because I wanted to describe what the apartheid is, and Emily cut in immediately to chirp about some random shit.
Okay, you were both abusing each other. It was very unedifying.
It was very
let me ask James. James, on the protests.
Yeah, dude.
On the protests, look, I believe in the right to protest. That's an absolute bedrock of any democracy. But I don't believe in the right to support.
I have a feeling, I am willing to bet that this guy is in favor of the, crackdowns across the country on Palestinian protests at universities that are being pushed by actual sitting governmental officials. I'm sure he has at some point praised that because he sees this has all gone too far. Because nobody is actually a free speech absolutist. It's always, always, always bullshit.
Or terror groups publicly, or to chant about support for Hamas, or to chant about Intifada, which is a violent uprising. Where's the line for you with these?
I agree. I think we have to condemn what Hamas did, and I don't think the words that have been used so far have been strong enough. I mean, it was the worst thing we've seen in a very long time. It was disgusting, appalling, awful for everyone involved. I also have a lot of sympathy, if not, I can't think of a bigger word, for the people of Gaza. It's awful, and I will agree with you. I do want a free Palestine, and I also want a free and successful Israel, but I don't want innocent people murdered. So yeah, you can't go to a protest and start shouting about support for Hamas. That's insane.
Isn't it ironic that something like this has become a haven for the mentally unwell? You're talking about something as serious as a conflict in Israel and Gaza, and for some reason you have really uneducated people that are clearly 20 years ago would have been in an asylum supporting this openly, not even knowing the conflict, not even knowing the context of what they're supporting, and for some reason we even give it airtime. That's what upsets me. These people don't deserve.
But she's making a good point here. Why are you giving that random crazy person airtime as if they are a proper representative of the Palestinian rights movement? And yet you don't bring on anyone of, comparing craziness of the, pro-Israeli movement. Nobody's acting like that on the pro-Israeli side, and because there's not massive death tolls on the pro-Israeli side. If there was, you'd probably see people acting much the same, because there'd be as much emotions on that side of the issue as there are on this side of the issue. So it's a very clearly biased framing, and I'm so glad she's calling it out. This woman's just hitting every nail on the head.
Right? Everyone is so triggered on both sides, on all sides.
So triggered. Is this guy like a self-hating gay conservative account or something? I refuse to believe he's not gay. This is not a straight man. And he's also certainly not progressive. Is this guy going for Milo's grift? This guy's given some Milo vibes, not gonna lie.
Because a lot of terrible stuff has happened. So that's where the emotion is coming from. But really, I think we all want the same thing, and that is for innocent people to not be murdered or slain in the streets.
Right. I mean, look, HASAN. Hang on, Emily, please, I'll come to you. Let me just ask HASAN. When you and Emily go at each other like you just did, nobody wins. I mean, no one can really understand a word you're saying because you're shouting over each other. You end up just calling each other terrorists. There's no sensible dialogue here. There's no constructive conversation. It's just two implacably opposed sides.
Yes, it is people throwing thought-terminating cliches at each other, just using mean-sounding words that everybody agrees are bad and trying to establish who is the most mean-sounding word. It's the most annoying thing about internet debates. Can't we talk about the most interesting parts of this debate have been when they talk specifically about a thing Israel or Hamas did. Those have been the most interesting parts of this debate. The ones that the parts of this debate where it's just them vaguely arguing about whether it's apartheid or not are the most annoying in the grass parts of it, And I got in the same argument with people in chat earlier in the stream. I'm not trying to tell you that you're wrong. I'm trying to tell you that you are not cementedly correct enough that you will not get dragged down if you try to argue these relatively weak points on this issue. It's apartheid. It's unnecessary. You don't need to prove it's apartheid. It's way worse than apartheid, actually. So, just Just say how it is. What Israel's doing is actually worse than apartheid, believe it or not. At least I'd say it is, because apartheid typically entails far less death.
Abusing each other. Do you understand that?
Yeah, listen, Piers, okay? This is going to always be a very heated discussion, okay? Having a conversation about how heated this discussion is utterly unproductive. Every single moment that we use on air, not talking about every single university building being desecrated, destroyed. The fact that we're having this conversation in the eve of hundreds of mass graves being unearthed right now in many different parts of Gaza around hospitals that Israel had laid siege to is disgusting. I agree. I came on here, as I have done last time as well, and as I will probably do in the future as well, with one simple goal in mind, which is to address all of the misinformation that surrounds stuff like this. As far as the crackhead Barbie thing goes, yeah, she's a random TikTok influencer who gives a shit about what she has to say. She's obviously doing it for clout. But the students over at Columbia, okay, the students that I have talked to at the Columbia University Apartheid Divest group, the students that I've talked to from Jewish Voice for Peace.
All right, Emily, let me just ask you the same thing I asked Hassan.
Did Hassan make too good of a point there that they had to cut it out or something? What happened there? What was that cut? Did he make such a good point they had to cut it out of the video so people couldn't hear it? What the fuck?
Group, the students that I've talked to from Jewish Voice for Peace.
All right, Emily,
they straight up just cut him off. All the comments of the video noticed that? Oh, man, maybe he made a really good argument there and they just decided to cut it. Interesting. That's convenient that it just happened to cut there, right as Hassan was finishing up his point.
Let me just ask you the same thing I asked Hassan. When you guys scream at each other and call each other terrorists, it doesn't obviously achieve
Piers
anything
Morgan
other
Uncensored,
than
guys.
It becomes unintelligible to the audience. You know, is there not a better way we can have this conversation?
Funnily enough, correct. And funnily enough, I have the same exact answer as Hassan. My job here is to make sure that I'm debunking false narratives that Hassan is clearly spewing. My job here is to call out hypocrisy. And I just saw another one where he's saying that.
To be fair, Hassan just spread a shitload of misinformation about the the Gaza-Israel stuff. It's been rampant and rife. One of the best examples is the one that became a meme, the J-Dam. I think it's a J-Dam. Pretty sure it's a J-Dam.
Crackhead Barney, whoever the hell that girl was, is a lunatic, but Aaron Bushnell, who lights himself on fire, is a hero. You can't pick and choose whatever fits your narrative. And I keep on repeating that over and over again, because the Palestinian movement will literally just take what they can get, spew all of the truth into their false narrative, spread misinformation, and then you say that we're the liars. You tell me I'm wearing an IDF dog tag. I'm wearing a bring them home for the hostages that you... No, it says bring them home.
You're using the hostages as a simple political tool to make propaganda in the West. Is quite disgusting.
It's not an IDF dog tag. Like, I just say that you're wearing a symbol meant to sugarcoat the imperialism of Israel's regime.
The protests that are happening in Israel right now are massive.
Are a political tool?
And those protests,
what?
You are using humans in captivity as a political tool. It's so obvious.
Why, Hassan? Why are you dehumanizing the hostages? Because I have no problem admitting the Palestinians deserve better.
Not.
I feel terrible.
You're using them as a political pawn.
I can say that.
If you cared about the hostages, you would be in Tel Aviv right now.
Using
alongside. Let me bring in James. Let me bring in James, please.
I'm sorry that I can't.
Please, let me bring in James.
I agree with both of you.
Sorry, can you please?
I don't know what they're saying.
Please stop talking. We've got 4 people here. James.
If anyone is using hostages, surely it's Hamas, Hassan. How can you say that? How can you use that argument? That's a crazy thing to say. It's Hamas that have taken these people from their homes,
tens of thousands of people in Israel.
Their relatives.
There are currently tens of thousands of Israeli citizens right now in the streets of Israel, in the streets of Tel Aviv, outside of Benjamin Netanyahu's house, protesting every single day. What are they protesting? They're protesting for Benjamin Netanyahu to facilitate a ceasefire with Hamas so that they can actually bring the hostages home. That is precisely the number one goal. If the family members of the hostages, and if anyone on this panel was being even a little bit honest, they would recognize.
Wait. What did Hassan just say?
Protesting every single day. What are they protesting? They're protesting for Benjamin Netanyahu to facilitate a ceasefire with Hamas so that they can actually bring the hostages home.
But Hassan, there already was a ceasefire, and it wasn't them or Netanyahu who facilitated it. It was Biden. Biden facilitated a ceasefire, and it happened, and then we lost it. It was great when we had it. It was fantastic. It was a beautiful time. It was a glorious time. For like 2 days, there was a ceasefire. The news of violence and death had lessened to a substantial amount. It was a great time. And then we got news that Iran had launched like 1,000 drones. And they'd be at Israel in a few hours. Stay tuned.
That is precisely the
But
number
who
one goal.
here
If
is
the
using
family
the
members of the hostages,
Who
and
is
if
using
anyone
the
on
hostages?
this panel was
No,
being
answer
even a
that
little bit
question.
honest,
You
they would
changed-
recognize
you're
the
not listening to
reality
my
that,
question.
just listen.
You didn't listen to my question.
Listen to what I'm saying, and you will understand, perhaps, what I'm trying
That's
to imply
very
here.
patronizing.
Utilizing the hostages. Yeah, I am being patronizing. I don't know who the fuck you are, and you're over here chirping all the way from fucking London about Palestine and doing a both sides are fucking fine type bullshit. Where you're talking about how you want to fucking free Palestine, but also simultaneously, both sides got a lot going on. Shut the fuck up. You don't know anything, okay? I don't give a shit.
I really do hate the fact that a lot of people online immediately try to equate saying that both Israel and Hamas are bad to both sidesing the issue. This guy is definitely both sidesing the issue, but Hasan does this generally. If you criticize Hamas and say Hamas is bad and Hamas cannot be the ones in charge of the Palestinians and in power in Palestine, the response is oftentimes like, "Oh, you're both sidesing it. You're both sidesing it." It's like, in that case, they're both sidesing Republicans versus Democrats, and they say, well, Democrats are bad too. I don't know. I can't think of a comparison because it's so dumb. I don't think there's anything comparable that they believe.
Shit about what your perspective is.
I agree. Hasan doesn't like what you have to say, so you're wrong. It's Hasan's way or the highway.
I mean, you are. There is no both sides on a genocide. Is there a both sides on a genocide? There is no both sides.
Well, okay, listen, to be fair, it's way more the IDF's way or the highway. Come on. Let's not pretend Hasan has so much power to instill his will upon others compared to the Israel state,
The thing is, it's interesting you should mention the hostages.
What is the Hamas charter? They want a Jewish genocide, but that's okay. But a Jewish genocide is okay.
If you're talking about the well-being of the if you're talking about the well-being of the hostages, what sense did it make for the IDF to flatten about 70% of Gaza? Because I completely agree. Bring the hostages home. If you look at Gaza, the topography of Gaza right now, it looks like a pancake. So I'm sorry, this whole argument of Hamas using them as human tools, fine, but the IDF has also been using it to continue that campaign. If you were told that if, God forbid, if your relative was one of the hostages,
that's just simply not true. Did I do a good impression? Was that a good impression of her? I think I did a good impression there.
And you saw what's happening right now. And I met someone whose mother was a hostage, and he said he didn't want his mother and her being taken to be used in the name of violence. Right now, he's sitting at home wondering, okay, what is the logic of trying to bring my mother home when you flattened Gaza? Please explain that to us.
So, can I pose a question?
You might very well pull those hostages from under.
Okay, let Emily respond to that.
Everyone wants to criticize the IDF's response, but nobody wants to tell me what should Israel be doing to retaliate October 7th, eradicate Hamas from preventing another October 7th, and bring the hostages
I have
home.
an idea.
Do you have a solution?
I have an idea. Do not flatten Gaza and potentially pull your own hostages up from under the rubble, like have been done with thousands of Palestinians. That's a good idea. Yeah. Have you found any of them under the rubble?
So you're saying that you don't have an answer.
That is the answer.
So you
don't kill your own hostages.
But you're quick to condemn the IDF, but you don't have an answer.
How about not killing the hostages?
Very interesting.
I have an answer.
Thank you for proving my point.
It's called the dissolution of the apartheid regime. That's what it's called. Dissolve the apartheid regime.
So what would you like to see happen, Hasan?
I feel like I can see into her eyes the pure rage boiling up when Hasan speaks and makes her position look like weaker because of his bad rhetorical skills. I've immediately jumped to her being the one that I'm rooting for here. She is far better at explaining this. Notice how she is not called it a genocide, an apartheid, anything along those lines. She refers to the massacre of blank. When this many people died here, when they flattened Gaza like this, and the topography looks like a pancake. I believe that was literally measured, like the way they did Kansas to find out, like, Kansas is literally flatter than the topography of a pancake. Right now, Gaza's topography is pancake level, like getting there to Kansas. And it used to be a city. So the buildings are pretty much non-existent now. It's like if they made a Fallout map that looked like Gaza, people would be like, man, they went a little overboard with the destruction on this one. It's bad. it's bad. Like, they're basically already going to have a clean slate to start building a new city from. Like, the demolition's already happened. It's bad.
Breathing room Do you not understand the English language?
We're
Dissolve
delayed.
the
It's delayed.
apartheid regime.
You need a Xanax, first of all. You need a Xanax. Okay, so should Israel do
Yeah, I'm
to
sorry.
the West Bank what
30,000
they did to
Palestinians have been
Gaza?
ruthlessly slaughtered by the
Should
Israeli
Israel
state.
give
It makes
back
me a
the
little
land so
upset
that it can
when
turn
someone is
into another
defending that.
Gaza? Is that what you'd like to see? Another terrorist haven launching rockets all day instead of turning into Singapore? Because that's what they did in 2005.
Wait, hold on.
See
What
how that
is
works.
Singapore?
The
The West
billions of
Bank.
dollars in
Hold on,
aid they
is the
turned
West
into
Bank
building
Singapore?
tunnels. Is that what you'd like to see?
Bombing,
I don't know.
who's
Have I
bombing
gone
Singapore
deaf?
every day?
Sorry,
What,
Emily, is the
Singapore
West
an
Bank
open-air
supposed to be
prison?
Singapore?
What are you talking about?
Is the West Bank supposed to
The
be
West
Singapore?
Bank received. The West Bank has a port.
God, I love her so much. I am a simp for this woman. Oh my God. She is the best. Immediately like, why are you bringing up some other place? We're not talking about Singapore. We're talking about Gaza. Keep it on topic. These are not comparable situations. Defend this situation. Stop evoking completely different situations to try to distract from the big picture. She's fantastic. She's actually great. Who is the black woman? I want to hear from her and nobody else. I'll rewind the thing to find the segment where he like introduces everybody, and then we can find out who she is.
They can import and export. Israel gave them a great piece of land. They received billions of dollars in aid, not only from
Israel
the
gave
U.S.,
them a great
but
piece of
Israel
land?
gave. Are you
No.
mad? They had a chance to rebuild, but they spent the last 15 plus years crying that they don't have enough land because there is never enough land for them instead of rebuilding. But that's okay. Build terrorist tunnels. Don't build hotels and don't rebuild
Israel
civilization.
has
Just build
not
terrorist
allowed
tunnels to keep hostages
Palestinians
in.
to have a nation state.
I mean, how are they supposed to build anything when they're getting bombed nonstop? That's kind of the thing they're complaining about, is it not?
That they deserve by international law since the inception of the Israeli nation state. What you are saying is insane to me. The fact that you brought up the last 15 years as Palestinians crying is disgusting.
Oh, I have one more question.
You are a disgusting little monster.
It reminds me a lot of like conservative American propaganda where it's like the gays are crying or woke people are crying about insert fucking atrocity that like very much needs to be addressed.
One more question.
Who thinks
One more question.
that not offering contiguity to the Palestinians in the form of a state, which is under international law, is just simply Palestinians
I have one
crying?
question.
Okay?
This West
Palestinians
Bank
don't want a
Singapore.
two-state
Hold on.
solution.
This
They want
West
a
Bank
one-state
Singapore.
solution that eradicates the Israelis, which is not an option.
Fine. This West Bank
You're wrong.
Singapore, what place
You're
does
wrong.
the settlements play in that? Please paint a picture of how the West Bank of Singapore or whatever, Singapore of the West Bank, how does this illegal settlements fit into
Ma'am,
that?
I think you're completely missing the picture.
Just explain to me
Israel
how the
wanted
settlements
to
fit
give
into that
them
picture.
a piece of land. I'm explaining it.
Her name's Esther Kroc, I think is how it's pronounced. Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm
The picture is they got a great piece of land to turn into society. Instead of turning it
got the
into
land?
civilized society,
Who did?
Israel gave the land to Gaza. They
So then why the
they
Israeli
removed
settlements?
It's not
Israelis
Israel's
from
land
their
to give.
homes.
It's
then
not
why
Israel's
the
land to
Israeli
give.
settlements?
It is not Israel's land to
2005.
give.
There are no Jews or Israelis. There are no settlements in Gaza.
in the West
they
Bank.
gave it to
In the West
the
Bank.
Palestinians.
They're not in the West Bank.
I'm speaking about Gaza. And
Oh,
now
I'm
you're
asking
changing
about
the
West Bank
narrative.
because I was interested
I'm
in knowing about
showing you.
Singapore.
I'm telling you that if Israel
Palestinians.
pulls out completely from the West Bank, if Israel pulls out from the West Bank, you can bet your ass it turns into the next Gaza. The world does not need two Gazas because one Gaza has already caused enough damage. If, however,
Yes.
Oh my God. This lady's definitely genocidal. Not her. This lady. This lady. Whether Israel is committing a genocide or not, this woman is definitely genocidal. She wants to exterminate Gaza. She wants it like flattened and destroyed.
Gaza decides to demand
Every
that
argument with
Hamas
Israel
remove
is about
themselves from
some
power,
hypothetical.
and they can have democracy.
Israel has to do a
then yes,
genocide
there's
because if
potential
Israel
for
doesn't do a
two-state
genocide,
solution.
then the Gaza
There's no
sounds a bit
genocide.
like
The only
victim
genocide
blaming
is the
Palestinians
Hamas
in
charter that
Gaza.
wants
You
to
cannot
eradicate
do
the Jews.
defensive genocide.
You know, it's interesting the word
Nothing
genocide.
defensive
because-
genocide.
hang on, it's
There's
interesting the
no
word. It's
genocide
interesting. Hang
happening.
on,
It's just
Israel's
about
I would love to get a word in,
allowed.
please. Interesting the word genocide, because I've listened to all this fractious debate, everyone talking over each other. The truth is that actually only one side has publicly said that they wish to pursue a genocide, and that is Hamas. Hamas, after October the 7th, through their official spokesman.
Yeah, and there it is. The reason why you should just try to avoid these fucking terms, because they're always going to bring up things like, Hamas's official position is they want to genocide the Jews. How can you say that Israel is in the wrong when their objective, or when Hamas's stated objective is full extermination of the Jews? And they are the ones that are in power in Gaza and constantly attacking. and constantly saying they want to exterminate Jews. And that is true. There's not a hint of lie there. The fact is Hamas is genocidal. So if you're principally against genocide, then you have to be against Hamas too. Xander Hall, did you see that Biden and several countries are trying to get a new ceasefire and peace talks between Palestine and Israel, and Hamas is being difficult this time? Yeah, Hamas will probably continue to be the difficult party. Like, Hamas will not waver on their anti-Semitism. That'll never change. Like, as long as Hamas is in the picture, they will not agree to a ceasefire long term. They want, like, extermination of the Jews just as much as any, like, Nazi militia group in America.
On camera, said they wanted to do it again,
maybe
and again,
more,
and again. That is the purest articulation of a genocide imaginable. And the one thing I never hear from the pro-Palestinian side is what Israel was actually... Hang on. No, don't interrupt me.
So one
I haven't asked you a
official,
question yet.
One Hamas guy...
Sorry.
Nope, their official spokesperson, as he said.
I need to ask you a question.
You're being a ridiculous person.
You're being a ridiculous person. I'm just saying, nobody ever tells me...
Because how many Israeli officials, even on your show, have said, we should keep doing what we have been doing to Gaza over and over again? How does that not register in the same genocidal intent? If you think what that dude was saying, which was, by the way, ridiculous what he was saying, the Hamas official was saying, is that we're going to do October 7th over and over again.
But he said
we are justified in doing it over and over again. Yes, I find that to be abhorrent. However, what you fail to recognize is that's the genocidal intent, but not Amalek. That's the genocidal intent, but not saying we are fighting human animals. And that's why we have to cut off their food, their water, and their electricity. That was Defense Minister Yoav Gallant.
There we go with the lies
Benjamin
again.
Netanyahu
You're saying Israel cuts off their electricity. They don't even provide their electricity. You're saying they cut off their water. They don't cut off their water. You are spewing lies on national television.
Wait, okay, who's lying there? Let's see if we can disprove one or the other. Did Israel cut off Gaza's electricity? The PA ceased paying the electricity bills issued by Israel Electric Corporation, IEC, and by Egypt. This decision was reversed in June 2018. During the early stages of the 2023 Israel-Hamas war, Israel shut off the supply of electricity to Gaza. Oh, nope, she just straight up lied. No, it's just like straight up a lie. Like, you can go to Google right now, go to Wikipedia, electricity crisis in the Gaza Strip. The crisis is predominantly the result of tensions between Hamas, which has ruled Gaza since June 2007, and the Palestinian Authority, PA, and Fatah, which rules in the West Bank, over custom tax revenue, funding of Gaza, and political authority. The Hamas government in Gaza has been reliant on the PA to help provide electricity in Gaza, with import duties on Gaza's fuel purchased via Israel being collected by Israel as per protocol on economic relations, which are passed to the PA, which pays the bills to Israel and Egypt for the electricity they supply to Gaza. In April 2017, the PA ceased paying the electricity bills issued by Israel Electric Corporation, IEC, and by Egypt. This decision was reversed in January 2018. Okay, so basically, Israel provided their water, food, and electricity, and Hamas was paying for it in this weird, like, shakedown racket in order to provide power to the Gaza Strip, then stopped paying because they were like, fuck Israel. All the Palestinians suffer because Israel's like, okay, shuts it off. So this is literally like an argument between an abusive parent and a bad landlord that, like, lets the landlord shut off the power because they don't want to pay, and, like, the kids have to suffer the consequences. The kids being, like, the civilians of Gaza. Well, that's just a straight-up lie from her. Israel literally, definitively, provably, historically, currently has the infrastructure and was the place providing their electricity.
Again, you're talking over each other. Some of the comments. There's no doubt, Emily.
People they're at war with.
Some of the comments.
Israel is
no, Piers, I'm not letting you spew misinformation.
Caring country on the fucking planet. I swear to God.
This is pointless. We're getting nowhere.
Because
thank you.
Did Yoav Gallant not say that?
Israel's cutting off electricity, water, and aid.
Did Defense Minister Yoav Gallant say we are fighting human animals or not? Answer that question. Did Defense Minister Yoav Gallant say we are fighting human animals and we have to cut off their electricity, cut off their food, cut off their water?
Okay.
Yeah,
apparently this lady is a Turning Point USA person. That's so okay. I don't know what this lady's deal is that she's the most based person on the table here, but she's like maybe at least an ex-conservative, but like this lady apparently worked with like TPUSA and shit. Jesus. That sucks. Sad that she is the only voice of reason here besides HASAN.
You know what? I'm going to cut
Israel
off. I'm going to
provides
cut off this
79%
debate.
of their electricity. The rest is Hamas.
I'm going to cut off the
That's
debate
not
because we're
Israel.
getting
Israel
absolutely
provides-
nowhere. But I appreciate everybody joining me. Thank you very much indeed.
I love that ending. I love that ending. Thank you very much for joining me. Have a good one indeed. Shaking his head to show that to everyone that he agrees with nothing that was said here. He maintains his centrist position. What a Chad. Anyway, guys, that was genuinely hell, and I hate all of you for making me watch it. Not that you made me watch it, but, you know, I kind of signed on to this. But the fact that I made myself watch 40 minutes of this honestly should qualify as self-harm. If you enjoyed that, though, please consider dropping a like. It really helps a lot and helps the channel grow, gets it a lot more eyes, you know. It really does help a lot. And, of course, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon to turn on notifications if you haven't already, and maybe consider following my social medias linked down below in the description, including my Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Do I have a TikTok? I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure I got a TikTok. Follow that, sure. Go follow my TikTok. My Instagram, Twitter, fan Discord, you know, all that good stuff. My Streamlabs links are down below where you can buy merch and donate, as well as my Discord server where you can join and we do watch parties and fan events and all that good stuff. It's a really fun time. Please consider joining. And yeah, I hope to see you there.